Good morning, class. The topic of discussion is theory of interest. What is interest? The very first question came in our mind before discussing further. What is interest? Interest is the price paid for the use of loanable funds. Interest may also be defined as income derived from lending the funds. Say I have some funds. If suppose I invest all those funds somewhere in the bank or in any financial institution, or I gave the same sum to someone else, say to Mira or something. That Mira gave me 2% rate of interest, 2% on that amount which I gave her, say rupees 1 lakh. 2% of 1 lakh, that is my rate of interest, that is the income which I derive from that source. Whatever the funds I have, if I give those loans to someone in consideration with some money, in consideration with some amount, that amount is basically known as interest, right? Now we have question, what do you mean by the types of interest? There are two types of interest basically. First is gross interest, another one is net interest. So first of all, we discuss here what is gross interest. Gross interest is the total payment that debtor makes to a creditor for the use of capital. When the total payment that a debtor makes to the creditor gave money to that person and debtor gave the interest to the creditor, that is known as the gross interest. Total payment include, there are certain constituents of that gross interest. Point number one is net interest. Then we have reward for the risk, reward for management, reward for inconvenience. Interest is not only the reward for only you lend the money to someone and someone gave you interest. That is net interest. So there are certain constituents. Point number one is net interest. Net interest is that which is paid for the use of service of money only, because you gave the money to the person, that's why that person give you say 1.5%. That 1.5% is net interest. Reward for the risk, maybe creditor has to take a risk of lending the money to someone. He feels that maybe that person will not able to pay the amount on time. There are basically two types of risks. One is business risk. Business risk arise because of the uncertainty of the business, right? Then we have personal risk. It refers to the economic situation. The person character is good, person want to pay, but business or the market situation or the economic conditions are not good, that's why that person not able to pay the amount on time. So for that reason, say they charge, the person charge 0.25%, 1.5 plus 0.25, that is 1.7. Now we have reward for the management. Reward for the management means, obviously creditor has to maintain proper accounts, because that person not only give loan to you only, n number of persons, say 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, so he can't remember the transaction of each and every person. He should record, he should maintain, he should appoint someone, who a clerk or someone like, or manager, who will remember every time ki now the interest is due on X party, Y party, Z party, the principal amount is due or something. For that reason, that person pays some amount to the manager. That amount, say the cost of that amount is 0.25. Now we have a rate of interest. For net, we have 1.25%. For reward, 0.25%. For reward for management, 0.25%, right? Then I have reward for inconvenience. Inconvenience means when you need money, that person not able to pay you the money as well as the interest. For that reason, say if that person charge something that is 0.25%, so 1.750 plus 0.25, 1.75, 1.75 plus 0.25 means 2%. Again for inconvenience, 0.25, 2.25% is the gross interest. This is only the hypothetical figures. You may take any example for the same, right? Now I have another type, that is net interest. Net interest is the payment for the loan capital only, right? When no risk, no inconvenience part, that which is involved in the saving, and no work is entailed on lender, means in net interest the only amount which is paid for the use of money only be taken into consideration is known as net interest. Yes, students, for examination point of view, you must go through the difference between gross interest and net interest. That is important. There are 3 to 4 points in your book. Point number one is wide and narrow concept. Obviously, net gross interest has wider concept, and net interest has narrow concept. Difference in rate. Net interest has less percentage of rate of interest, and in case of gross, they have higher rate, right? Determination: net interest is determined by the equilibrium of demand and supply factor of the capital. And in case of gross interest, several other factors we have to take into consideration. You do take care for 4 marks, 3 marks. This question is important. Then we have difference between rate of interest. So why always the rate of interest not same? In for every case, the rate of interest is different. There are certain points: monopoly power. If there is only one person, or or combination of persons gave combination of persons gave loan to giving loan in the credit market, then they charge a different rate of interest. Okay, suppose I am alone able to give loan to different people, so I will charge from you, maybe from X person I will charge 2%, for Y I will charge maybe 4%, for Z I will charge 6% on the basis of credit worthiness of the person, if I am only the single sole person who is able to give the loan to the people, right? On the other hand, if there is no monopoly, only perfect competition, okay, in that case the rate of interest may be lower one. Then we have the point liquidity of mortgaged article. When a person get loan, obviously that person pledge something to someone, like you need money from me. In that case, say you pledge your valuable property, or a gold, or silver, or anything. Okay, if the value is higher, you will charge less rate of interest. If the value of the mortgage article is low, in that case you charge lesser, more interest, right? Obviously, na, if the mortgage article is costlier one, I can easily convert it into the cash amount if no, you're not able to pay me. In that case, rate of interest is lesser, otherwise rate of interest is higher. Then we have difference in risk. Risk means low rate of interest is charged from a person who enjoy good credit worthiness or good credit ability, right, in the market. But if your credit worthiness is not good, even in that case, the person will charge more rate of interest. Then we have inconvenience. Inconvenience, like if suppose when I gave you some loan, in that case, suppose being a creditor, if I suffer so much inconvenience of getting the interest or getting the principal amount, my past experience was not good, in that case rate of interest is higher. Management: if creditor has to spend lot of money on management of funds, debts, etc., in that case he will charge more interest. Simple. Then we have period of loan. Longer the duration of loan, higher will be the rate of interest. Means if you need fund as a debtor, you need fund for 5 years, then rate of interest may be different. For 10-year, rate of interest will be different, because future is uncertain, right? Future will always be uncertain. That's why lesser the time period, lesser the rate of interest, higher the time period, more the time period, more the rate of interest. Security: if you gave me as a debtor, if you gave me security, personal security, then the rate of interest means personal security. In that case, rate of interest may be less. Otherwise, rate of interest will be high, because depend upon the valuable property, security, and that liquidity of the mortgage article. Both are same. Mobility of the capital: if developed countries where capital is mobile, people have tendency to deposit the funds in the bank and they need loan, they collect money from the bank. In that case, rate of interests are low. Otherwise, in underdeveloped countries where sahukars are there, then rate of interests are high. Bank facilities: obviously, if in your country banking facilities are great, good in rural as well as in urban area, in that case, rate of interest difference is very less. They charge nominal and stable rate of interest for the same. Then we will discuss in the series 3 or 4 approaches of rate of interest. So the very first theory, that is classical theory of interest, very important theory, because theories you have to understand, otherwise in economics no use of study the interest. The first theory is classical theory. This theory is basically given by J.S. Mill, Marshall, etc. Right? According to the classical economist, uh, the rate of interest is determined by the supply of capital and demand of capital. They feel that always interest rises because of the demand of capital and supply of capital. Thus, to study the determination of rate of interest, it is essential to understand demand and supply of the country, right? So the first constituent in this theory is supply of capital. Supply of capital is a function of R. R stands for rate of interest. F stands for function. S stands for supply of capital. So supply of capital is a function of rate of interest. It means higher the supply of capital in the country, lower the rate of interest, lesser the supply of capital in the country, lesser the rate of interest, right? If suppose a supply of capital depend upon, always supply depend upon saving. If saving will be higher one, means people not spend more on consumption, they save more. I am telling you, saving, say I have income. Why? Some part of income I will consume and some part I will save. What I will save, supply of saving is influenced by certain real factors, say I will not consume, I will wait, time preferences. Real factor depend upon rate of interest. Suppose you gave me more rate of interest, so I will obviously save more, the supply of capital more. In that case, rate of interest is lesser. So saving increases with increase in the rate of interest and decrease with the decrease in rate of interest. There are two aspects, I will save only when rate of interests are high. I will save less if rate of interest is less. Huh? So consequently, supply of capital is an upward slope always. Always has upward slope, right? Then we have demand for capital. What is demand? Demand for capital means basically it is related with capital goods only. If you want to purchase machinery, if you want to purchase land and building, then you make investment. With the use of capital goods, there is always increase in the demand for capital, right? So investment I I means investment is equal to F function of R. Okay, investment is an inverse function of rate of interest. Means higher the rate of interest, lesser maybe the demand for the capital, lesser maybe the investment. On the other hand, if rate of interest is lower, in that case you demanded more, you can say rate of interest. We express this thing with the help of this table and diagram. I have this diagram, this table. At 1% rate of interest, people demanded less because there is always inverse relationship between rate of interest and demand. Lower the rate of interest, higher the demand. As interest increases from 2%, 3%, 4%, 5%, in that case your demand may be 40, right? At 4% your demand may be 40, 3% demand may be 60. On the other hand, supply and rate of interest has positive relation. Higher the interest, higher may be the supply of capital. See, at 5% your supply of capital may be 80%. There is a positive correlation between supply of capital and rate of interest. See, at 1% your capital for supply for capital is 40. Here there is inverse relationship between demand and rate of interest. See, this demand curve always downward sloping in the diagram. Just look less, downward sloping. On the other hand, that supply may be upward sloping because there is a positive relation where these demand and supply intersect each other. This is a point of equilibrium. At this particular point, this is your R. O, R is rate of interest charged by the company, and O N is the supply of saving and investment from the supplier side, right? So in this way, where supply and demand intersect each other, the point of equilibrium decide the rate of interest and the saving and investment level. Then we have criticism of this particular theory. This theory is no doubt criticized by the modern economists, the neoclassical economists, the Keynes. First point is equilibrium between saving and investment. According to the classical interest theory, equilibrium between saving and investment is brought about by change in the rate of interest. But according to Keynes, it need not do so. Keynes maintained the equality between saving and investment by the change in income, not by the change in rate of interest. He said कि if your income increases, automatically your saving increases, not depend upon rate of interest. Then the next point is effect of interest on saving and investment. It is wrong according to Keynes. Classical economists said that both saving and investment are influenced by rate of interest. But reality, according to Keynes, more income than uh, in fact, saving is influenced by more income than the rate of interest. Similarly, investment is influenced by marginal efficiency of the capital. Marginal efficiency of the capital means expected profitability from the business. Then we have based on real factor only. Classical theory is taken into consideration sacrifices, waiting, reward, real factors, but they ignore all the monetary factors influencing rate of interest. According to Keynes, the monetary factors you have to take care about, that phenomena is totally absent in this particular theory. Then unrealistic assumption of full employment. Full employment is the bad assumption in this theory, because in real life, in developing countries and underdeveloped countries, we can't even imagine about the full employment, because resources are not fully utilized or they have more population, etc. Narrow concept of supply. Classical theory includes in the supply of capital saving effect out of existing income, but in reality, past hoarding is also included in the supply of capital. That is totally ignored. If you have past saving some amount you have saved in the bank, you use it for supply of the capital. That is ignored. Indeterminate theory. Again, this is the criticism. This theory is indeterminate. Income is influenced by the investment. Investment is influenced by rate of interest. Rate of interest influenced by saving. Saving is influenced by income. All are interrelated. This is a circle. Starts from income, ends with income. If there is no income, if you want to earn income, you must have investment in the organization. If investment depend upon rate of interest. Rate of interest depend upon in saving, and saving again depend upon income. If suppose I have more income, then I will obviously save more. If you understand this concept reversely, if I have more income, then I will save more. If I will save more, then it depend upon rate of interest. Obviously, I will save more if I earn more rate of interest. If more rate of interest, then more investment. More investment means more income. It ignored borrowing for consumption. This concept also ignored that people borrow money not only for further production, but some people borrow money for the consumption reasons. They borrow money and they use that money for the consumption of public utilities of life, like food, shelter, and clothing, or sometime the comforts of life. Neutrality of money. This is the wrong assumption of the theory is that money is neutral. In real life, money is not neutral. The change in demand and supply of money do not affect the rate of interest considerably. So, every time, every theory is criticized by the next people, like neoclassicals and Keynes criticize this. A neoclassical theory again criticized by modern economists. So this is going on, but you have to understand that where demand and supply of the capital intersect each other, rate of interest is determined and the value is no. Thank you so much.